All right, Homesteader family, welcome back to the journey. Welcome to this edition of the Sunday Monday vlog. Max is up here being a butts. He just wants attention. He wants to be on screen to see everybody. Everybody else is hanging out, sleeping. We have Minnie Mouse over there sleeping her butt away. Mr. Chubbs over there sleeping his butt away. And then back behind me is Mickey Mouse back there sleeping, doing his thing. And Max decided he wants to be up here and be a lapdog for some reason. He wants all this attention. So, this week, since we know Johnny's not doing too much homesteading anymore, it's been pretty slow. Not much to talk about. I've hauled water, moved hay. My allergies are all messed up right now from moving hay. I just got home from moving hay, so I haven't had time to hop in the tub to clean up. So the allergies in my face from the hay. Arkansas is not bad on allergies like Colorado was. I actually just took an allergy pill because I'm all puffed up right now. But in Colorado, I was taking allergy pills in the morning and in the evening. So out here, it's nice. I take them maybe once a month, if that. It's just whenever like this moving hay and everything gets up in my nose and gets me all clogged up and snotty and everything else. So that's been pretty nice. Homesteading, like I said, I haven't really done much, just the water, the feed. I did move some sticks the other day, but basically now that it's grass mowing season, mowing the yard here at least once a week, if not once every 5 days. So it's just a constant maintenance thing. I have to go mow the yard out in Marshall at the rental house. The contract that I was in, they never came up with the money, so as of Friday at 11:59 p.m. I'm out of that contract, so I just relisted the rental house. So that's back on the market. We'll see about that. I'll go over to Marshall tomorrow. I'll mow the yard. Go ahead, lay down, relax. Lay down, relax. Oh, you're fine, big baby. I've got to go over Marshall. I've got to get the flea and tick medicine for the dogs. They're due on the first of the month, so go pick those up. I'll mow the yard, and then I've got to drop some stuff off to the county. So I'll get the whole morning done doing that. Come back, open the snowball stand at 2 o'clock, run from 2 to 6 like normal. And for those of you that have asked about the snowball stand, let's see if he knocks the tripod over. He's going to be graceful this time. But for those of you that have been asking about the snowball stand, it is going slow. Most days are 0 to 1 snowball for the entire day. Yesterday was Saturday, open for 8 hours, sold 1 snowball. Today, for whatever reason, today's changed from March until now. Today, for 8 hours, I did 8 snowballs. So a snowball per hour on average. Definitely a lot slower than last year. The weather today, we were only like 74 degrees, so when it's a lot cooler, I don't foresee people getting snowballs. I want to eat ice cream or snowballs when it's cooler. But next weekend, Memorial Day weekend, it's supposed to get up to like 89 degrees. So hopefully with the hot temperatures, that will start bringing everything in. Schools are out now, so hopefully that will start picking up. But at this rate, I'll probably be shutting down the snowball stand in July. And I'm probably not going to make the money on the snowball stand for what I put into the snowball stand to start with, let alone I don't think I'm going to make enough this year to get the excavator later this fall. So we're going to have to see how all that happens. The next big thing is my finances, which is part of the title of this video, selling the family homestead. That's going to be the topic I'm going to talk about tonight. But the biggest part is I had somebody comment. I've got dirt on me. Wasn't sure what it was. I think it was Max. He stepped in dirt, got it on my arm. I looked down, I saw something. But I had somebody comment on my video the other day and was talking about, in my video, I talked about the DeWalt shear pruner the battery operated that I bought that I put on credit card to be farther in debt. And they said, I was looking forward to homesteading, but I wasn't looking forward to being in debt. And my finances are changing. And like I said, I'm going to get on the topic of tonight's video after I go over this. But my money is tied up in Colorado, for those of you that don't know. So I did an owner finance on my ranch in Colorado. The balloon comes due 6 years as of next month, June. So I have a long time until the money comes in. However, it's been less than a year, and the family that purchased the homestead is now going through a pretty bad divorce. So they just signed with the realtor that I had, actually, and they're going to be selling the ranch. So everything, once again, might be totally changing for my daily plans, monthly plans, yearly plans, and everything else. Oh, I'm definitely going to keep working, DT. I appreciate it. But now everything's going to change, because if I'm not getting paid 6 years from now, I'm not getting the interest. So without the interest coming in, that's going to give me a whole lot less money, which means in the long run, I'm taking just over $100,000 back on the ranch in Colorado, because the interest that I was going to accumulate was going to cover all the money I put into the ranch in Colorado. The $100,000+ in the fencing, having the well drilled, the caisson, all that, the little pump house I did, the wash bathhouse that I did for the petting zoo, all that money that I put into the ranch, I did the owner finance because the interest was going to cover that. So if that doesn't happen, that's going to change a lot of my plans out here and what I'm going to be doing, and not sure exactly how I'm going to be able to do the homestead like I had originally planned. However, there's going to be a couple possible outcomes. There's one, cash buyer comes in, they buy the contract outright, I get paid back what is owed for the ranch, and that's going to, like I said, take just over $100,000 bath. I should have been getting about $189,000 interest. That's not going to happen. If somebody buys the cash, I'll just get paid off, and then that's it. So I'll have to cut way down in my plans for the homestead, and it will be drawn out longer. However, by having that money come in, then I'll be able to start doing a lot more work a lot sooner than 6 years from now. But I'll have to space everything out and figure everything out. And I can feel my sinuses filling up from moving that hay. It's killing me. I can already hear my voice changing. The second scenario is if my realtor, their realtor, finds somebody that can't get financing or doesn't buy the ranch for cash, and they do an owner finance, then I can get into a new owner finance. And I told the realtor I'm not going to ask for as much as I did the first time, because I want to try to help the family be able to sell the ranch. So I don't want to ask for too much where they can't get it sold, because they need to resolve their issues, and they want to be done with the situation. So I asked for $50,000 cash this time, and it's going to be listed for over $400,000 this time. Of course, not all the money's coming to me. It's going to go to them, because they paid money down for me to be able to buy this place to live here closer to the homestead. So this next go around, if an owner finance happens, that will be the best benefit for me, because I'll go back into owner finance. I'll be making that interest. Instead of a balloon in 6 years, it's going to be 5 years. So I won't make as much interest, but I'll be getting that $50,000 down up front. So that $50,000, that will help get the excavator, get dozer, get fencing, get something to get started on the homestead and get stuff moving. So that's what's going on with my finances there, and I have no idea where I'm going to be. I don't know financially, if another owner of finance is going to come, or if I'm taking $100,000+ bath on the ranch if it sells for cash. That changes all my plans out here in Arkansas. I'm not saying I'm leaving Arkansas. I'm not going nowhere. but that 189,000 was going to go towards fencing, a barn, all that type of stuff. So for me to skimp and save $800 a month to come up with 189,000, we're talking a lifetime in savings. That's, no truck issues, no emergencies or stuff like that I have to spend that $800 each month. So that could put a big kink in all my plans. I might have to go smaller scale. Then I also have to think with the rental house, I have it listed for 40,000. If that doesn't sell, I'm paying property taxes on that each year for that just to sit there. So then that takes me into the second thought is if a cash buyer comes in and I take the $100,000 loss plus loss on the ranch in Colorado, do I go ahead and spend $40,000, $50,000, tear the house down on the rental property since there's water, electric, sewer, and everything already there, which costs a lot to bring into a lot anyhow, buy a $100,000 modular home, brand new, put it on there, and then turn around and try to sell it for like $250,000, $275,000, try to make $75,000, $80,000 profit between what I bought it for originally, the property taxes I'm paying, the price to demo the house and haul everything off and bring in the new modular and get everything hooked up. And then, of course, landscaping. So I'm not sure where I want to go, but that's, if I do get a cash buyer, that's probably what I'm going to have to end up doing is tearing down the rental house, put in new modular, sell that, try to make some profit off of that to try to make me whole from my Colorado loss, and then take that money, start building my house on the homestead, and then put money into the restaurant here to rehab this restaurant. And then I can sell this restaurant once I have a house built out there, or at least a shell dried in where I can survive over on the homestead in a shell until I can get the restaurant sold and then sell the restaurant. And then that give me the money to finish the house. And then hopefully enough profit on top of that to cover all the fencing, the barn, and everything I had planned to do with Colorado anyhow. So we're going to see. It's all going to change. Not sure exactly how everything's going to pan out. It's just, these things happen to all of us, and we got to figure out. I am literally getting ready to come buy land with cash at the end of June, but tuned in late to what you're selling. Where are you going to buy land at, George? That's good that you're going to buy it cash. It's always good to buy it cash. And that's another thing for those of you that don't know. So the mortgage near Buffalo, the Buffalo River here in Arkansas, or Buffalo, New York, or where at? But for those of you that don't know, St. Joe to Flippin'. George, I highly, highly, highly recommend. I don't want to upset anybody here in Arkansas, but I'm telling you, you're gonna want to come to St. Joe. I lived up in Bellefonte, going up towards Harrison for a while when I was with my ex, and then we moved to Marshall and lived in Marshall. The people, the friendliness, the neighborliness, and everything else. Yes, I know there's some great people in Marshall. I'm not bad-mouthing everybody. That's why I say I don't want to make anybody upset. But St. Joe is where you want to be. I didn't care for Marshall. Didn't care for Bellefonte. St. Joe, it's right on the edge of the counties. Everybody in this area is very neighborly, very friendly. And yeah, I would highly recommend St. Joe if you can get St. Joe. Land is very rare in St. Joe. I have multiple people throughout the U.S. that are actually looking at moving here. What about Mountain View or 56 area? Those areas I don't know. I just know Searcy County, and the reason I came to Searcy County, and I don't know if you studied this, in Searcy County there's a lot of unrestricted deeds. So for anybody watching, in most places in the U.S., you have restricted deeds, which means you have to have permits for building. electrical, plumbing, septic, all that type of stuff. In Searcy County, which includes Marshall and all that, my rental house in Marshall is in the town, but is an unrestricted title. So if you have an unrestricted title, you can build whatever you want, do whatever you want on your property. There's no inspection fees and building permits and all that type of stuff. So I don't know if Mountain View, I know Harrison has some different restricted titles and stuff like that. Searcy County, some of the titles are restricted, some of the titles are unrestricted. So if you're looking, you also want to verify that the titles are unrestricted. The restaurant here, the rental house in Marshall, and my 120 acres over here in St. Joe down the road, 6 miles, are all unrestricted properties. So, or unrestricted titles. So I can build, I don't need building permits and stuff like that. So that's something you want to consider as well. If you do look at other places, Mountain View, 56 area, I don't even know what 56 area is, but I have heard of Mountain View. But you do want to look for titles, make sure you're buying what you want, where you're not going to get into a HOA or you can't build without paying a bunch of money like I had in Colorado. But like I was saying, for my homestead here, for you buying in cash storage, that's a very good idea if you can, because my other financing that I'm dealing with as well is my mortgage on the homestead. I don't think I've ever talked about it to everybody, but I could only qualify for an ARM because it was land. It didn't have a house on it. So it was a 5-year ARM, and with interest rates skyrocketing, I got mine when interest rates were at like almost 3%, and now they're over 7%, so they more than doubled. So my mortgage is getting ready to skyrocket. So that's another thing I've got to consider too. If there is a cash buyer with my ranch in Colorado, do I try to do the flip in Marshall with my rental house to try to make that extra money, or possibly be stuck with it, tied up with my money tied up in Marshall again, like I have my money tied up in Colorado, or do I pay the mortgage off so I don't have the interest rate skyrocketing on my mortgage? I've got so many different irons in the fire. It's just financially, I've got to figure it out. So with all that, now I'm going to get into tonight's topic, and that is selling the family farm. And it goes back to how we were taught. And this is going to conflict on multiple levels, depending on how you think, what you feel, what you were taught, how you were raised, ideas that you see going forward. And I've talked about it on the channel, and me and my buddy Steve have talked about it, how it's very, very difficult to homestead now, and why it's impossible now to even homestead like they did back in the day. And that was because we started getting taught that the most important thing was the American dream. And that American dream was a 2-story house, white picket fence, in town, fancy cars, a good job, and you go off on your own. That totally changed from the original homesteaders. The original homesteaders, and I got to throw this out there, but Appalachia's Homestead with Patera, she's been talking about this for the last several days. And I'm like, I've been waiting for Sunday, Monday vlog to come up to go into this topic. And she starts talking about what I'm going. So I want to throw that out there for Appalachia's Homestead with Patera. You guys might want to go check out her channel. But she started talking about it. And that is, we're getting ready to go back to this in a way. And that's what she says. But the key part of the original homesteaders, why they were able to homestead, was because there was multi-generational families all living on the same land, all working the same land, all contributing to the same land, and all paying bills on the same land. And that changed because we were taught that we need to fly the nest, we need to do everything on our own, we need the American dream for ourselves, and we got into the throwaway society. You know, if it's old, you throw it away, you buy new. We don't fix stuff anymore. We toss it out. If we get it from grandparents and stuff like that, we throw it away. When I was cleaning out houses, when I had my own businesses back in Colorado, and I did house clean outs, I threw out so much stuff. When I went in, cleaned out houses for realtors, just everything went in the dumpster. Everything went in dumpster unless like a bunch of furniture. I had Goodwill come in, get stuff like that. But there was so much stuff now that I look at that I shouldn't have thrown away. And we got into that throwaway society mindset. And this is, like I said, many times. My great grandfather always said, change is 90% bad, 10% good. And that's why community was the old way, society is today's way. And that change has been bad. And that's why we can't homestead the way we used to homestead way back when. Because we have, say there's 5 families on the original homestead, okay? 5 families are using the water, they pay the water bill. Or you had a well or whatever. But even today, like Appalachia's Homestead with Patero's talking about, think if 5 families moved into a piece of land together and you're hooked up to the grid, you got electric bill, you got water bill. Yes, 5 families use a lot more power, a lot more water and everything than 1 family. But if you think about it, if those 5 families are on 5 separate properties like we live nowadays, because we all have to have our own stuff, which is, like I said, we're taught that mentality, and now they're trying to change it again, and it keeps going back and forth. But when you have 5 different properties, there's 5 different electric bills. And if you look at your electric bill, you have a hookup charge, you have a meter charge, you have multiple different charges. And then the very last charge is the amount of electricity you use. Well, all 5 of those houses are paying all 5 of all those charges times 5 over and over and over. But if all 5 families went on to one homestead, you're paying 1 hookup charge, 1 meter charge, 1 whatever charge, and 1 whatever charge, and then all 5 families for the electricity they're using. So these 4 bills that were duplicated across 5 homesteads or 5 house sites, whatever you want to call it, goes away. Same thing with water. Look at your water bill. It's not just the water you use, it's all these other fees and charges. Your internet bill, same thing. Your sewer bill, same thing. Not trash. Trash is just trash. But think about that. So if 5 families got a piece of land, moved on together, got all those bills, and everybody's making $1,000 a month, and say just one person from each family makes $1,000 a month, that's $5,000 a month going to that homestead, going to that piece of land. And back in the day, those 5 families, they all worked the gardens, they all worked the livestock, they all put up fencing, they all built the houses. It wasn't you on your own. That's one way. Now you can't really homestead that way. Like with me, I can't do a whole bunch of things on to make an entire homestead because it's just me. I can't be out milking the goats 3 times a day and tilling dirt and cutting timber and stacking firewood and building a house and doing this and that by myself. But if I had 5 homesteading families all on the homestead, then everybody has their own tasks, their own chores, and they do their own thing. And for any of you that go through Tennessee, Lafayette, Tennessee, I've talked about another YouTuber, which is Pastor Dow. I don't see eye to eye on the religious aspect or that type of stuff. But if you want to see an old kind of homestead that works, that is sufficient and running smoothly, I highly, highly recommend you look up Straightway. And if you go through Lafayette, Tennessee, see if you're allowed to stop in and see his place. I went multiple times back in 2009 to 2011. I haven't been out there since. I know they've done a whole lot more because I still watch his videos. Like I said, I don't believe in what they believe in, but he's the one that I came across his video, and for whatever reason, like I've said a long time ago, in 2011, in January, his video popped up on my YouTube. Just me watching YouTube. I didn't have a YouTube channel. And it was talking about there's going to be wars and you need to get out the cities and the crime's going to come in and you're going to get raped, robbed, pillaged, and all this stuff. Just a, fear tactic type of video. And I thought to myself, like a lot of people think nowadays, oh, look at this crazy kook. And several months later, my house is broken into with guys with guns, armed burglary. I wasn't home. I was home the one day. They came back, got caught in my house with guns and everything. The economy went to crap in 2011. I lost my businesses. My house ended up going into foreclosure. And after all that, I started thinking that crazy old coop, he had a point. So before I had to get out my house, I started watching a bunch of his videos and seeing what he said to do. Get out of town. Well, that's the reason why I ended up going into the wilderness in Cotopaxi, getting that 2.5 acres and starting this journey I've started. Like I said, I don't believe in the religious and all that type of stuff that he does, but I wanted to go see his homestead. They had gardens, they had orchards, they had vineyards, they had all that stuff that they built as a community. And to see that, see everybody out working, all the women out working, all the men out working, all the kids out working. They get together on a weekend and they butcher out 3, 4, 5, 600 chickens at a time. They have a big dining hall. They all eat together. That's how old homesteads used to be. You had multi-generations of family and friends, not just family, and friends as neighbors and everything else. Just like the Amish, the barn raising, everybody comes together as a community. That's the problem. We're no longer that society. So we were taught to come into society, and when we became society, then up went the family homestead. Everybody started selling the family homestead. Well, when you sold the family homestead, everybody went their own ways, and that was gone. And now, in order to get back to that, you have to have multi-generations once again work a piece of land, pay off that piece of land, pay off all debts, and continue. It's not overnight. We can't do it. Just by me having my homestead, it will never be an old-fashioned homestead. It will never be where you can survive 70-80% off your homestead because it's not paid for. And that's whether you believe in conspiracy theories, whether you believe the government's corrupt, whatever you believe, you've got to be on the mindset that everything we're taught's not the best. I mean, think about it. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, believe conspiracy theories, don't believe conspiracy theories, think of this. We all go to school. Do they teach you how to cook food anymore? No, they don't. Do they have workshops to teach you how to build? Do they teach you how to run your bank accounts and stuff like that? They don't teach us anything, or the new kids, on what you need to survive in this world. That's where we went into society. We left community a long, long time ago. And with society, we're not taught the right way of doing things. And by doing that, the throwaway society, like I've said, when we got rid of that family homestead. When we sold the family homestead, it was paid for. Our grandparents, our great grandparents, our great 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 great, going all the way back, had it paid for. They owned it outright. And we decide to throw it away, to sell it, to buy a new place, to start all over, to go into debt again. And that's why in today's society, we cannot homestead the way they used to. Because everybody back in the day was on a family run, multi generational homestead that was paid for, that they weren't paying mortgages on, they weren't paying all the bills on, they weren't financing to keep going. Someone sounds more and more like a boomer. Proud of you, buddy. Well, I appreciate it, 7Xs. And I don't know if you were paying attention, 7Xs, but there's somebody else in here, George. And George, 7Xs, he's looking at coming to St. Joe area as well. So we got multiple people in here from wherever looking at buying in St. Joe. And these are the things we need to be thinking about. And yes, I know I'm sounding more like a boomer. And that's because I was raised with my great-grandparents. And even though I'm millennial, I don't fit into the category of millennials. I would be interested in buying 20 to 40 acres cash and then helping each other out on the homestead. That's the way to do it, George. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. I've got a buddy, Steve. He's not buying, but he's giving me some money to have 5 acres on my homestead for a lifetime. And I'll continue owning the homestead, but with our contract, he'll be there. He's going to give me a set amount of money, and he's on his 5 acres for the rest of his life, 99-year contract. Or like you say, if we figure out how to live longer, which I will, 200 years as an alien, him not so much, but then it will continue on. However, he'll also be, he's going to help with orchards and stuff like that across the homestead and do different things. But that's also where it's very hard from the old years of the multi-generational homesteads where everybody worked together to today's society where like city and country right now. I'm going to go to this example first. So city to country. If you're in a big city and you look at somebody, they think you've got an issue. They don't talk to you. But you come down here to St. Joe and just standing there pumping gas, people randomly start talking to you. They want to have conversation. That's the difference between society and communities. And that difference holds true for how you were taught, how you were schooled, how you were raised. So because we're a society now, it's very hard for us to go back to that community living because a lot of people don't bind well. They don't know how to drop their differences. That's why we're seeing so many issues on Facebook, on social media. That's why you see so many families ripped apart. And I think this is all a part of it. Because if we put everybody back together, I mean, think about it. If you moved in with a bunch of your family right now, 99% of us, including me, because I don't talk to anybody in my family, my blood family, except my one set of grandparents, because there's such bad rifts and differences in my family. But 99% of us could not go back to living all together in a multi-generational thing because we're raised that, oh, we've got to have our own independence. We like it this way. We don't like it that way. And we're not taught to blend our ideas again like we used to. So, yes, it's a great idea to get back to that old multi-generational homesteading. But you also have to realize to go back to that, we're going to have to give up a lot of our ideas, a lot of our pleasures, a lot of our wants, desires, likes, and everything else because we're going to have to start compromising. And what's the biggest thing with compromising that we don't do anymore? Communication. We're all on the internet. We don't know how to have regular conversations. We don't know how to talk to somebody and say, hey, you pissed me off, let's fix this. People hold grudges, they let it build up, then they explode, and that's the end of it. Or somebody doesn't do something you like or something you don't agree with, and you're like, oh, blocked on Facebook, blocked on my phone, and that's it. Um, if you're going to get back into that mindset, you're going to have to realize it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pleasurable. There is going to be some misery with it. That's like with me and Steve. I said we're like grumpy old men. My favorite TV show or movie, and it's already happened with him being out here. We'll go to town to go shoot pool, and he'd be like, Johnny, you really pissed me off on this, and I'm like, hey, Steve, you really pissed me off on this, but I piss him off. He goes back to his 5 acres and does his own little thing until he cools down. He pisses me off. I come over here, do whatever I want on the rest of the land. And, when we're cooled off, we talk. That's a thing a lot of people aren't able to comprehend nowadays, is how to, just let things go, talk things out, and move forward. That's actually one reason I haven't told Steve this, but he'll be watching this from his place because he watches my videos. But that's another reason why I try to get him to get the land up where the homesteading family was, because he's coming through my land. He's coming up and down through my driveway to get to his little piece of land. Where if he was outside of my land, then it's totally fenced off. I don't have to worry about anybody in my bubble. So that took a lot for me to let him come into my bubble, because I'm very antisocial. Yes, I'm on YouTube, but I've had people like from the snowball stand invite me to Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving and stuff like that. My neighbors from Colorado that are in Kansas, they keep trying to get me to come to Kansas for the holidays. And it's just, I'm very, very, very antisocial. A lot of people can't comprehend that. But I don't like going out and doing stuff. Now, yes, I can talk here on YouTube, and if you come to a snowball stand or come out to visit, I can sit there and talk nonstop with you. But as for just going out and doing things that's out of my bubble, I don't care for it. I want to be on my homestead, want to be in my little bubble, nobody bother me. So that's, for those of you that are considering homesteading and you want to get back to the old homesteading ways, and you think because all these homesteading channels out there show you the rainbows and the flowers and the unicorns and how it's great and how simple it is and how you can make money on the homestead and how you can leave the city and be perfectly happy and fine out in the middle of the wilderness, is totally not true. Without the original family homestead, you're going to be fighting, clawing, and using your time and your life in order to get back to it. For example, multifamily homesteads that had massive orchards. If you start planting an orchard now, you're going to have some of it in your lifetime. But the big trees that, if you plant an oak tree now, it takes 100 years to grow. You don't see it in your lifetime. A fully functional farm with livestock, barns, root cellars, stored food, like they had back in the day. If you don't have a bunch of family, if you don't have a wife and a dozen kids like they had back in the day, or a bunch of friends that want to get land together, or a bunch of neighbors that come together to work on each other's property throughout the year, you're never going to get what they had back in the day, which means you're never going to be where they were. Now, the only way that's going to happen is if you're rich, if you're a multimillionaire, and you can just buy this all outright, pay for companies to come in, plow your fields, all that type of stuff, then yeah, you can have what they had back in the day. But that takes money. If you don't have money, you're going to be working, sweat, blood, tears, scrimping, saving like I do, trying to make do with what you have. These are just some of the things you need to consider, some of the things you need to think about, because a lot of people believe you can just start a homestead and do that. And for the lady that commented on my video about not looking forward to being in debt, that's the option you have. If you're going to homestead, and I know a lot of you don't want to think about debt doing homesteading, but you also got to think about reality. And that's why I'm going to throw her name out there again. Appalachia's Homestead with Patera. I watch a lot of her videos, and like she talks about chicken feed is expensive. Everything's expensive. Fencing, barns, you name it, it's expensive. It's cheaper to move into the city where you're not driving all the miles, wear and tear on your vehicle, gas, and all that type of stuff, to buy your $2 eggs at the grocery store, where it's going to cost you $10 to $15 a dozen for eggs in the country if you count everything. You know, most of these people that are homesteading, they say, oh, it's $10 for a bag of chicken feed, which is now like $20 or $30 at this point with inflation. And that's all they count. They don't count the land purchase. They don't count all the fencing. They don't include building the chicken coop. All that cost goes into those eggs. It's not just, I bought a chicken for $6 and a bag of corn, and that egg is 25 cents. It doesn't work that way. People are unrealistic on YouTube when they tell you it's very profitable. And a lot of people think you can get a bunch of chicken, raise them, and sell them and make money. It doesn't work that way. That's why the environment we're in society, everything is debt. Grocery stores are debt. I mean, think about it. They're selling cucumbers for $1. Do you know how expensive it is to grow a cucumber, let alone pick it from a farm, pay the money to transport it to a warehouse that pays the electricity for refrigeration, then pays to transport it to the grocery store, to go into a refrigerator unit for electricity again for you to buy it for $1? There's no way possible without the government supplementing farmers and everything like that in order for that cucumber to be worth $1. And that's why I've talked about since about a year and a half ago, I still think this fall we're going to see some food shortages, some food crises like we've never seen before, because, and it's getting even stronger now, with Walmart shutting down, Burger King shutting down, Chick-fil-A, Safeway, all these different stores, they're shutting down different stores. Not all of them, but you're getting ready to see a bunch of grocery stores disappear. That's going to end up food deserts where people are coming into your town to go to your grocery store. And we all saw how quick and how easy in 2020, where toilet paper, dog food, and everything else was off the shelf. What do you think is going to happen when you have 3 or 4 towns come into one grocery store to get those groceries, and the second a grocery store is empty and people go into panic mode again? We're not talking toilet paper. We're talking about food to survive on. You can't get food. I mean, I remember even here in Arkansas, the ramen noodle, the noodle cups. It took several months for me to even be able to buy ramen noodle cups because they were gone. Bags of rice, they were gone. Beans, they were gone. What are you going to do when it's an entire grocery store? And when all these grocery stores and chains and Disney's laying off a bunch of people, when all those people are without work, that's less money. They don't have money to support. It's all going to be a chain effect. All right, DT, you have a great night. I appreciate you hopping in, and have a great upcoming week down there in Georgia. Hopefully the weather stays good for you. But I still think September, October, November, I think we're going to see it. They're already talking about gas prices and stuff are going to be going up for for Memorial Day weekend. And of course, it always goes up for the summer. Um, we haven't gone back below three. Well, we did for a little while, and then we're back above $3 a gallon for gas. So with prices getting ready to go up for transportation, what do you think that's going to do to the food cost? And it's going to continue going up. I mean, my animal fee, like I said, that's gone up again. Um, Feed, hay, everything's going up. Fencing's going up. So a roll of fencing for 100 feet of 6 foot no climb horse fence is now over $429 at Tractor Supply. That's ridiculous for 100 feet. Uh, that's over $4 a foot for fencing. That don't include T-posts. That don't include the pressure treated posts for your corners and your H braces, and the wire to strengthen your H braces, and the rebar to twist, and the staples and the nails and everything else in between. Um, we're getting ready to have some issues, everybody, and you know, people like Appalachia's Homestead with Patera. I mean, she's honest. She's telling it how it is. Um, a lot of people are scared by watching different videos, and a lot of people are panicking. You can't get into the panic mode, but at the same time, you know, you got to figure out what's going to happen. Um, my biggest panic mode right now is getting a garden, definitely for next year. It's not going to happen this year, but definitely for next year. And there's two main reasons. And it doesn't even have to do with the food crisis I'm talking about. There's a couple different things I don't know if you guys know about, but there's a thing called Appeal. They're spraying on vegetables. Um, it's very toxic. It's banned overseas, but yet we're allowing it. And there's also the bioengineered stuff that's coming into the food. If you look at like Hellman's mayonnaise, if you look at Sour Patch Kids and different things, if you look at the back of the label, they now have things that say there's bioengineered stuff. So between the heavy chemicals and toxics being sprayed now on produce and the bioengineered stuff coming into the food, that is my reason for the food. Now, of course, I can say the third now is the food crisis I think will happen. But if the USD faults, or if we come into reality that food should really be high up in cost, if you go back and look before eggs just went up, eggs were still 25 cents an egg. If you go back to the 70s and 80s, it was 25 cents an egg. I'm not sure how far back it went before it was cheaper than that. But eggs been 25 cents an egg for a long, long time. And if you look at egg prices compared to inflation, income, values, food's got a long way to climb. If you look at overseas, go back in time, the Weimar Republic, hyperinflation, different places in South America that's had hyperinflation. Food is one of the things that skyrocket. Weimar Republic took an entire wheelbarrow of cash to buy a single loaf of bread. So you have to decide where do you want to be if things get that bad. Do you want to have a homestead that's going to be more expensive right now, but able to survive the intermediate time in between now to where you're not going to be on a homestead? Because like I said, if society collapses, if we go to war, if things get bad, we're not going to be sitting on a homestead on our porch in the rocket chair waving at people as they walk by. Those people are coming in because they need food. You're not going to have animals. Just like everybody in the city, their mentality, if things go bad, they're going to, what they say? Oh, I'm going to run to the country. I'm going to shoot a deer and I'll be able to survive. Look at look at like Colorado Springs, Colorado, almost a million people. If a million people went out into the woods and they all shot a deer, just say there's a million deer, guess what? There's no deer left. And if you don't know how to preserve the meat, that 150, 250, 350, 450 pound deer, whatever the weights are, whatever animal you're going out to shoot, wild boar, elk, buffalo, whatever you find to shoot, if you don't know how to preserve it, that meat goes bad really quick, especially if it's like right now, like next weekend here, going to be 89 degrees. Meat's going to go bad really quick if you don't know how to preserve it. For those of you that don't know about survival or have gone through survival school in the military like I did, or take survival classes like I did in Boy Scouts or survival stuff in high school, I've had a lot of different training throughout my life on it. What plants to eat, worms, all that type of stuff. Now I'm in a different environment. I don't know what all Arkansas is edible. That's one thing I need to work on. Steve just got a book on all the edible plants here. So now we have a hard copy. He's right next door to me. So we have a hard copy. So if internet goes down, you can't ask Google, hey, Google, can I eat this plant? Nope. Google can't tell you because Google's not there. But we have a book with pictures we can identify. That's things you want to think about. But look at Naked and Afraid. For those of you that watch a lot of TV, you can watch Naked and Afraid. Look at how, I don't want to say how stupid those people are, but they're definitely city people. It's not country people out there on Naked and Afraid. It's city people. Because you look at all the plants out there, there's so many edible resources, and they sit there for 20 days without eating anything but one meal because they can't catch fish or they can't shoot a deer, or they don't know, oh, if it's a blackberry, I know it's a blackberry, but there's so many other plants like dandelions, plantain. I can't think of all the different plants, but just those, dandelion and plantain. They're two different weeds most people don't even know are edible in the city. So just watching Naked and Afraid, just look at how hard it is to survive 21 days. Now think if things get really bad, which I don't believe anything's going to happen till like 2038 or 2042. They're the 2 years in my mind from ideas I've seen in my head. That alien intergalactic perception. I don't think anything real bad's going to happen now, but look at like Ukraine overseas. Overnight war happened. Overnight, people went from drinking their Starbucks in the city to now they're out on the run. If they don't have family, if they don't have neighbors or somewhere to go, they're on the run. Think of natural disasters. Hurricane Katrina down in Louisiana. Look at how many people were homeless overnight. Whoa, lost everything. Like I've said in a couple Sunday, Monday vlogs ago, if you don't have a root cellar that is waterproof, tornado proof, disaster proof, then you lose all your preps. People in Hurricane Katrina, they had all their stuff sitting on shelves in their house, and their house is gone from the hurricane. Well, guess what? All your preps went. All your money went. We got to be thinking about these things. We're getting ready to go into a new year that they're saying is going to be a El Nino summer, which means it's going to be super hot. They're talking about this year is going to be one of the hottest years on record, which means all the rain and stuff, California, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Colorado just got, all that vegetation that just grew, when all that vegetation dries out really quick, overnight, because Colorado gets really dry and those other states get really dry really quick, think of how massive the wildfires are going to be. California has a lot of produce land. If all that dries up really quick and catches fire and burns, That's less food going grocery stores. For those of you that don't pay attention to the food industry, look at all the different food places that have caught fire, burned down. Look at the ranchers that are talking right now in the cattle industry about how when they sold all the cattle back in 2020 and there were lines, we saw on Facebook and stuff, lines of trailers of people selling their cattle because they couldn't keep the cattle. Well, all those cattle that went to slaughter never had babies. Those babies would be slaughtering age right now. And in the cattle industry, they're talking about there's not a surplus of meat right now and how meat prices are getting ready to go up. These are all the things that are going to contribute to what, in my mind, I think later this year is going to be the first wave of food insecurity, food shortages, and food missing on shelves. And all it's going to take is that one panic, one tiny panic, just like 2020 with the toilet paper. Grocery stores everywhere will be wiped. If you look at most cities, they only have enough food in grocery store for 3 days. We saw in 2020, it took weeks to get food back to those areas. Toilet paper, everything else. There's still dog food shortages. And that's another thing I think that a lot of people aren't talking about for the shortages is when we shut down the world and all the farms shut down, the warehouses shut down, we burned through all that surplus when we reopened. So we had warehouses filled with stuff. Everybody's pulling everything we got to send it to make sure people had toilet paper. But they have to get the machines operating again. But you don't have all that surplus built back up. Without all that surplus, I think when that next big panic sets in, we don't have the surplus to try to back up, try to tackle that back. Same thing with the cattle industry. We can't just make a whole bunch of new baby cows. We can't make a whole bunch of regular cows full size ready to go to slaughter because they weren't born a couple years ago. People don't understand. It takes a couple years for a baby cow to become a full-grown slaughter cow. It doesn't happen overnight. And a lot of people ask me, why aren't I making so much money on my homestead with all my animals? Well, you only have one cow per year. So if I sell a baby for $1,000 each year and I'm paying $2,500 a month, which is now $2,700 a month in feed because feed's gone back up some more. If I'm selling one baby cow, well, I had 2 babies born this year. So say I sell the 2 baby cows I had born this year for $2,000, $1,000 each. That's $2,000. That doesn't even include 1 month of feed for all the animals. I'm feeding all the animals. If I sell the 8 baby goats that I had, $100 a goat, that's $800. Let's just bounce it up to $1,000. There's $3,000. And say my litters of pigs, $1,000. So $4,000 out of all the babies I had this year. That's it. $4,000 for all the babies. That doesn't even cover 2 months of my feed for the entire year. That just goes to show I would need so many more cows. I would need so many more goats to have so many more babies to be able to do that. If I want to sell full-size cows, then I got to keep those babies and feed those babies for another year and a half to bring them up to slaughter age to sell them for $2,000. But I'm going to put more than $1,000 into the babies in order to get the $2,000, which doesn't make sense. That's why I'm saying without the stimulus and everything, that's why you see farms disappear. That's why you see ranchers disappear. And that's why everybody eventually sold the family farm, because to come into society, you needed so much more money than you can produce on a homestead. But if we weren't trained to go into the society mindset and we stayed in the community mindset and we stayed on those multi-generational family homesteads and farms and ranches, then we could still be living and surviving a simple life. But because we want televisions and electricities and running toilets and washers and dryers and microwaves and toaster ovens and Keurig machines and blow dryers and hair irons, and you name it. Everybody wants all these things. It costs way too much money than a regular multi-generational homestead could provide. I mean, go back in time and look. Most original homesteaders only had a couple outfits. They had a regular outfit for working throughout the week, and they had a Sunday outfit for church. Now, how many clothes do you have? How many pairs of shoes and boots and flip flops and slippers and sandals and everything else do you have that they didn't have back then? All that stuff costs money. Look at everything you have in your house, your couches, pillow, blanket, remotes, everything you have, and just start adding up all the costs and look at how much money you've spent. Look at how much debt you've gone into. And if you didn't have all that and you had put all that money into land, into your homestead, into a garden, and you're not buying groceries at the grocery store, and you're not paying thousands of dollars a year in electricity bills and water bills and all this type of stuff, then yeah, you would be able to survive just like the original homesteaders. But unless we go back to that, and that was way back further, like half hour back in this video, the comment from that subscriber talking about debt. I choose to be in debt because I want the luxuries. That's why I'm homesteading in debt. But if you don't want to be in debt as a homesteader, like she didn't want to be in debt, then you're going to have to be very, very, very frivolous. And you're going to have to get away from the idea of the free stuff. I've talked about that in a bunch of videos. I see a lot of cheap homesteaders. They're like, oh, it's so cheap. And the lady that actually commented, she's got a YouTube channel, but she hasn't made videos in like a year. But I did. I went and watched some of her videos. And she was getting free plants. I don't know how far she was driving, but she drove a long way, at least half hour in the video, driving to go get free plants that she found on Craigslist. And she's talking about how expensive the plant is. And this is nothing against you if you see this video. This is just a point. I'm not picking on you. I'm picking on everybody that does this. All the homesteading channels that say this because they don't understand this, or they don't say this, or they don't think about this. But she drove all this way to go get free plants. And then another video too, the plants died. And she saved all this money by getting free plants. But what most people don't think, if you're looking for free pallets, free plants, free pieces of scrap metal, and things like this, is the wear and tear on your vehicle going out wherever you have to go, the gas that you're paying to go get it. She lost the plants, so there's no refund on the plants. Like if you buy a plant at the store, Home Depot and stuff, they have like a 6 month to a year guarantee. If it dies, you bring it back. But a lot of these people, they go out to buy, or not to buy, but they go to pick up this free stuff, a free pallet here, a free pallet there, and they're saying, oh, they're saving all this money. You're not saving all this money, because all that time of driving is time you could be putting on your homestead. All that gas going back and forth is the same as going to the store. When you're going to 50, 60, 70 locations throughout the month to pick up all these free things, you've spent just as much money picking up free stuff in gas than the gas and what it would cost to buy stuff at the store and make one trip for the month to a store to get all these things. So that's the frivolous side. You know, you got to stay cheap, but at the same time, you've got to count on what it's going to cost. The only way I see in my mind of going back to the original homesteading, being able to afford original homesteading, is if you have a place in the city that you have a bunch of equity surplus equity where you're not in debt. You can pay off your mortgage and you have a lump sum of money. So say you have a mortgage for $250,000. After realtor fees and all that, you make $50,000. Then you find a piece of land for $25,000, leaving $25,000 in your pocket because you're going to have moving expenses to get everything moved out to that homestead, and you survive on that $25,000 until you got a job to bring more money in, but you're going to have to go smaller. One of the easiest ways to homestead that's not going to cost as much money is don't get any type of livestock. Don't get chickens, don't get rabbits, don't get goats, don't get cows, don't get horses, don't get donkeys, or in my case, don't get camels or emus or peacocks. They're a constant feeder. You have to constantly shove money out the door, just like a boat. Bust out another 1,000. That's what boat stands for. Bust out another 1,000. Because you're constantly feeding the animals. If you're going to homestead, the only thing you're going to be able to really do cheap is garden. Buy land that is somewhat fertile. You don't necessarily have to buy fertilizer and compost and everything like that. Over time of growing some seeds, you can go, like I've showed you, to the feed store like I do and buy a big packet of seeds for $1 versus going to Home Depot and spending $3-4 on their tiny little packets of seed. Grow some purple top turnips. Grow some daikon radish. Take those greens, mulch those greens up from the tops of them. Make compost. That's free to make that compost. You spend a couple dollars on seeds. Once you have good compost, then you buy other vegetable seeds. Start growing other produce. That will at least help you cut down on your intake of groceries from the grocery store. Once you do that over so many years where you have enough fertile land, and this also depends on how much land you buy, then you can bring some chickens in, because then at that point you have enough produce to not only feed you, but to feed your chickens. Your chickens help make quicker fertilizer, which means you can expand even more. Then you get rabbits, then you can get goats, and that's how you expand. But that also will go back to the original multi-generational homestead. Over all those years, all those decades, all those centuries, that's what your family did. Slowly but surely, they built that up. That's the only way we can do it now. But you have to be in the mindset it's going to take your entire lifetime of doing it to get back to the original homestead. So with that, I appreciate everybody that joined in. I appreciate everybody that followed for however long you followed in this video. I appreciate the thumbs up, the sharing. I appreciate you guys being part of the journey, wanting to come to St. Joe. For those of you that are looking at St. Joe, I know I have, I think, 4 or 5 people, and now either 5 or 6 with George talking about it. I don't know George, but just people from YouTube that are looking at coming to this area, and people that want to come visit. I've got people in Illinois and Arizona and a couple other places that want to make a trip out here just to meet me. I look forward to the visits. I'm glad my buddy Steve decided to move down here. I just look forward to everybody being part of the journey. Like I said, as soon as I can get to the homestead, I'll be doing a lot more videos and just seeing where this world goes and how our different journeys might collide. You guys might move here. You might just come to visit. But I appreciate everybody giving me your time and thinking that I'm worth and value the time that you're giving me. So with that, remember, live happy, live free. That's the only way to be. I'll see you guys on the next video. Have a great week. I hope the weather is great for you. Enjoy this spring. Summer is almost around the corner, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thank you guys. Have a great night.